did.
I've told that.
Good morning, everybody. We'll get started. Welcome to Board of Public Works and Safety, Tuesday, September 7th. Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Eaglin. Aaron. Courtney.
Here.
Carla.
Here.
All right, Board, if you had an opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting, August 16th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, thank you. First up, we'll talk a little bit about some unfinished business, and I know Chief Wallace is here, so I was going to ask him to maybe give an update on some concerns that were expressed at a recent council meeting with regard to Lydia and Middleton traffic control. Chief, you mind just giving us an update on? Oh, no adjustments. Yeah, no adjustments.
Good morning. So we did meet with the principal of Lydia Middleton and also with the school resource officers and discuss the ongoing issue of traffic concerns in that area. Actually, traffic will back up essentially from the school, eventually all the way to Craigmont, blocking the entire 600-700 block of West 3rd, which is obviously unacceptable for emergency situations. So we're starting off with the principal sending a letter, email to all the parents asking them to avoid blocking traffic, to consider maybe parking and picking up your child as a walker or rider. I think that's maybe the proper term. So we're going to try that now. The last couple of days really haven't been fair or indicative of how it's hopefully going to turn out because of Main Street being in such an issue that there's nobody allowed to actually park along the curb out on Main Street with this going on. So once we get Main Street squared away, then we'll take a fair evaluation of it and see if indeed this is going to hopefully be a viable solution, or we're going to have to do something else. Essentially, a lot of us have looked at it and there's really no good answer. I mean, that school was built, gosh, what, early 1900s, and it was a walking school. I mean, it wasn't ever designed to be driving riders and buses and those type of things. So it creates a unique issue, but we simply can't allow West 3rd Street to remain blocked for safety reasons. So we'll see how this turns out. If not, then essentially we're going to have to go down and talk to the parents and have them keep moving until they can safely get into the parking lot and pick up their child, because they do come in from the south and from the north. They come in from Main and from 3rd, so it does create quite a congested area. And some folks are essentially getting there just way too early. I mean, I know when my kids were, how excited I was to go get them.
Well, that's the other dynamic. Too, Chief, right? Which is more pickup, drop off, and less riding school buses.
Yes.
But I know that yourself and the school system, and I've had conversations with Dr. Studebaker. They're aware of it, and they're also exploring options internally to make that process more efficient.
Yes.
And certainly understand the safety issues of blocking streets, particularly the narrow 3rd Street, West 3rd Street.
Yeah, it's been an ongoing issue for probably several years. However, this year's became more of a larger issue, and I think probably because of the virus, less kids are riding the bus and more are being taken to school. So I say, to be fair, we get past Main Street here, which should be within a week or two, and then we can take a fair evaluation of what we need to do from there. But we'll continue to stay on it and hopefully keep West 3rd Street from being blocked, because at the end of the day we can't have that. So.
Chief, what about the cars backing up on Main Street side?
On Main Street side, generally they're parked along the curb.
Okay.
I haven't really seen a major issue out there as far as them blocking any kind of lanes of traffic on Main Street. They'll pull along the curb and back all the way up to Mill Street.
Yeah. Now
there's always talk about where you can swing around the 400 block of Mill, but then you're blocking cars in there, and wouldn't be as obviously as bad as blocking 3rd Street, but there's still not a great answer there as well either. So we've looked at alternate stagnant dismissals and those type of things, but with so many brothers and sisters and siblings in school, that makes it hard as well. So
there is some street signage in front of the school itself that we can also extend west to block off and make sure that area is restricted during the school day, so that more of the area in front of the playground would certainly be reserved for people lining up to pick up their children. So it's like the Chief said, we're trying to make something work in the modern era that wasn't originally intended, and yeah, I'm optimistic, honestly, with the technology that we have that, you know, how many times have we heard the phrase, there's an app for that? There's gotta be an app for something. If there's not an app for this, then someone needs to invent one.
Yes.
Cause I think they probably make a little bit of money, but there certainly has to be a more logical way to safely, do pick up and drop off, at the end of a school day without blocking streets.
Well, that's the end of the day.
And it's common sense too. Why would you block an entire street?
Yes, and you know, fortunately, that community down there knows the kids and knows their parents, but there's always that one slip up could always happen, and God forbid anything like that would take place. So kids, obviously, are our number one priority, their safety, and get them in the right vehicle. But just ask the parents or grandparents, whoever picks them up, to try to work with us and not get there 20 minutes before school's out to block the roads, and we'll work through it. But hopefully, after we get Main Street completed, we'll see how this new alert to the family and grandparents is going to work out. So.
Okay, Chief, any other updates you want to share with the community?
Oh, just, we've been busy, real busy, but, I am going to, honor, some of our officers tonight, which will include the detectives at the city council meeting, for that heinous, murder that we had on Wallace Street. Within 28 hours, they had a person identified and in custody, and built a very solid case, so I'm extremely proud of the work they've done. You know, all awful, loss of life's tragic, and I'm sorry, that this gentleman lost his, but at least we can bring closure to it by the work that these detectives did, and get this taken care of. Because the longer these things go on, the worse they are in the community, and they really take a life of their own on, and we was able to put a stop to that before, you know, really got out of hand. So we're glad that took place.
Good job there. I look forward to tonight's
Yes.
ceremony as well. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any questions for Chief? Board? Okay, let's move into new business then. I want to welcome 5th District Councilman Curtis Chatham here. He's going to talk with us about a drainage issue on Crozier Avenue that he's been working very diligently with the city to help and his constituents to resolve.
Yeah, good morning. I think you received some quotes and maybe some pictures. Did you share some?
Yes, inside the package
some
of the 2 quotes, as well as a GIS overlay with regards to the Crozier Avenue section we're talking about today.
Did you share some pictures that I had taken from
I'm sorry,
rains
I
and things
did
like
not.
that? Okay, we'll make sure you guys get those
Okay.
as well. The city performed some work up there, I think in 2014, 15, right, Tony? Was that the last time? So they took some drainage from the east end of Crozier and started working their way west, but stopped. And probably the most severe area has been neglected. So we're working with some of the residents up there, and they've talked about, they've been there about 40 years, and it's been a problem ever since then. So the 2 quotes you have will fix that area if awarded. So CDAM Contracting submitted a price of $107,000, and Riverside Contracting submitted a quote for $136,787. And it'll basically take the stormwater from the south side of Crozier and run it across the north side and down into Little Clifty Creek, I believe is the one that runs back through there.
Right.
So it's just an extension of the work that was completed 6-7 years ago. So some of this is, this should be covered under the ARP funds that we're awaiting, or maybe we even received some, so part of the American Rescue Plan.
Yeah, so stormwater infrastructure was an eligible use under the ARP Act, which was also included in our local plan that City Council adopted. So there are funds available to pay for this. This really is a problem that's long overdue, and Curtis and I have been up there talking to residents on days where there was a lot of rainfall, and as the councilman had mentioned, you know, work had been done, you know, probably around 6 or 7 years ago, but only covered half of that portion of Crozier Avenue. This will more efficiently allow that area to drain. It's an important stormwater drainage ditch for Crozier Avenue. That'll take it over to Cypress and then across the street north into Little Clifty Creek. It looks like an efficient way to do this, and frankly, not that expensive for the amount of water volume it's going to move, and essentially a nagging problem for the last 4 decades, resolving a nagging problem for the last 4 decades. So, board, I would like to make a motion that we accept the quote from CDM Contracting in the amount of $107,000 to install approximately 1,700 feet of 12-inch drain line, as well as the requisite yard inlets to resolve the drainage issue on Crozier Avenue we just discussed.
I'll second the mayor's motion.
Board, any discussion?
Mayor, I noticed both quotes, they're quoting a 12-inch drain line, and I'm assuming that they think that's gonna be the sufficient size to handle that.
That's what was previously
Similar
installed on
size.
the east end as well, was that 12-inch?
You got good results on the east end?
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, it completely eliminated the standing water in that older area of Crozier that used to drive through, and the yards were flooded all the way up to their house from the road, so there's no standing water in that area anymore.
Yeah, I will just mention too, go ahead, finish your
No,
comments,
it's-
Board Member Carter.
no, it's-
Okay,
it's-
I would just mention, stormwater drainage is one of the more frequent problems we encounter across the city. We don't have good infrastructure. We don't have a stormwater board. We have not taken the steps that other communities have taken to more effectively manage stormwater. It's something we are now looking at as we're partnering with the Army Corps of Engineers for future flood risk mitigation. But stormwater drainage is an issue all across town, particularly on the hilltop with the more modern development where the practices for stormwater management were very different back in the 1950s and 1960s as compared to today's development standards. So we're going to repair and address these problems as we can and as funding allows us to do. And our priorities are going to be those stormwater ditches that move water off of roads. We're certainly not proposing to go into private yards or in that area to deal with drainage in yards that aren't directly affected by the runoff off of the street. So I think this is a good one to experiment with and start with in tandem with the core project that we're working on.
And CDM did the previous work, so they were the contractor that did that 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Councilman, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Staying
I
on
appreciate
this.
it.
All right, we'll move into our several street closure requests. Council.
The first one is a street closing for the historic Broadway for the golf cart run. It's resolution number 51-2021. Whereas there's been a request filed by Gail Freeman on behalf of the historic Broadway Tavern for a street closing in connection with a golf cart run to be held on Sunday, October 3rd, 2021. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the streets running south from Main Street to the north side of 2nd Street shall be closed from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Sunday, October 3rd, 2021. Be it further resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that said street as closed shall be under the supervision and control of the historic Broadway Hotel and Tavern at the time zoned above for the year 2021. Are we
Yeah,
sure
good morning.
about the date?
I was going to ask about the
dates
date.
are wrong. I didn't
think
fill
it's-
this one out, Larry
I-
did.
I think it's the second.
It's
I-
second.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it
And the
is.
time is actually wrong too. It should be
October
from, I think the golf cart thing starts at 10:30 that morning and goes until 1, I think is what it is. Larry filled all this one out.
10:30.
And so, yeah.
You changed it at 3.
Gail, do you know what hours you're asking for with regards to the street
I'd like
closure?
to do about 10 because we're gonna set our beer wagon up and everything about 10 that morning.
Okay.
Just that one side.
Okay, just the
the one
west side.
side directly in front of the stable, basically.
West side.
Yeah,
And that will be till when? Okay,
until 1.
till when? I don't have I mean, I like all the festivals we have in town. I have received some complaints about people blocking the streets too early and not following the permits. Especially down along Vaughn Drive. They were blocked one day early this year for one of the events. I think they were kind of taking advantage of the area. I just encourage people, if you have a permit, let's abide by the times on it. And if you need more time, then come back with amended part of that, because festivals are great, but we still have to follow this.
I'm just saying one, I know it's
Yeah.
done a little
Yeah.
earlier, but one just gives us time to get everything
And
cleaned
that's,
up.
that's a perfect way to
Out of
do
the
it.
way.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I make the motion, we approve resolution number 51.
I'll say that motion.
Okay. Any discussion? Anybody from the audience, on this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Gail, thank you very much.
Thank
The next one is resolution number 53-2021, this is for Soup, Stew, Chili, and Brew. Whereas there's been a request filed by Emily Roberts on behalf of the Madison Area Chamber of Commerce for street closings for said group in connection with the Soup, Stew, Chili, and Brew Festival to be held on Saturday, October 9th, 2021. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the following street shall be closed for parking from 8 a.m. on Friday, October 8th, 2021 through 9 p.m. on Saturday, October 9th, 2021. West Street from Main Street north to 3rd Street. Be it further resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the following streets shall be closed on Saturday, October 9th, 2021 from 6 a.m. through 9 p.m. Main Street from the west side of Jefferson Street to the east side of Broadway Street, and West Street from 3rd Street to 2nd Street, south to 2nd Street, and Mulberry Street from 3rd Street to 2nd Street. Be it further resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that said streets as closed shall be under the supervision and control of the Madison Area Chamber of Commerce at the times on above for the year 2021.
First time doing this, friend.
Good
so-
morning.
Good morning. You're good at that. You do it off fast.
Perfect. Yes, so the closure that we put in front of you is essentially how it's been done in the past. The only addition that we made was Mulberry. And the goal of Mulberry, Cassie has a few maps that she can pass out to you all as well. But the goal of Mulberry is that we're gonna have an adult zone. So essentially cornhole, large Jenga, just an area for them to hang out if they want. So yeah, that's really the only addition.
Would you like maps?
Do you mind?
We got, so I have a question, thank you.
Yeah.
But it says 3rd Street to 2nd Street, is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so both of those, both north and the south side of Main Street?
Yes,
block? Okay.
yes.
Typically, we don't use the entire length of that. We usually do from the first alley to the second alley. So we just allot that extra space just in case we need that overflow for booths or anything.
Okay. Glad to see this one come back too. I know it was
Fingers
not there
crossed,
last
yes.
year, but a lot of locals really appreciate the work you're putting in at the chamber, but also for this annual event, so
We're
appreciate it.
excited.
Mayor, I have a question about the need to close West Street on Friday from Main Street to 3rd Street.
So we do that because we bring in our porta potties as well as the dumpster the Friday before, and then those get set up and they're ready to go for Saturday.
My question is, do we need the whole block?
No, it's
to-
just the parking.
Can we,
You mean
can
from
we
the
just
alley,
close it
the
from
alley
the
south?
alley south to Main Street
Yes.
instead of closing the whole block?
Yep.
That gives you enough room for all your equipment and the
Yeah,
dumpster. The
because
dumpster
it's-
will be up against the curb.
Yes.
And out of the traffic, okay.
Yes, it's just the parking right there, so anything from that alley to Main Street on West, that would work.
So we're
Now we have-
modifying, so your proposal would be, we'd be modifying, it'd be West Street from Main Street north to the alley. You're saying that's okay?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody wanna make a motion? Or do you-
Mayor, with
Okay.
making that change, I would
Yeah.
make a motion that we approve resolution number 53-2021.
And I'll second David's motion.
Okay, any additional discussion? Any comments or questions from the audience?
I do have
Yes.
a question. For requesting to, use a parking lot, do we need to include that in this resolution? Okay, we would like to, apologies, we would
Okay.
like to, request to close off that parking lot that is next to McWiggins and, utilize that for our kids zone. Ideally, we would like to close that on Friday evening and then just keep it closed until the 9 PM on Saturday.
That's a major parking lot. You're gonna really choke off some parking for the event festival too, if we do that one.
So-
That's my concern.
Logistics wise,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, I've not paid attention to the parking situation there during the event, but, if we were to keep the West Street closed the entire length that we're requesting, then it's technically not accessible to the public anyway, because Poplar Street is a one-way to 3rd Street, and then if we're keeping West Street.
It says here, you want to close the street from 8 AM on Friday to 9 PM on Saturday. West Street from Main Street north to 3rd Street, and we modified that to the alley so that then you would still have Lytle Park parking, vehicular traffic able to come south on West Street and go through the alley and get into the large parking lot in the center of town by McWiggins. Plus there'd be 2 routes into that parking lot. And I would just ask you to reconsider, because you've got a giant footprint now. And so can you work with the footprint you have for Kids Zone rather than a big footprint and taking the largest parking spot in the heart of that event out?
And inside the park is I think there's only 2 in the city where you can actually plug your car in to charge. I think there's only 2 stations in the city that would
Yeah.
take those out of service.
So just full transparency, our goal for exploring that is because when we have talked to businesses about how they feel about the festival and things that they would like to see improved, a lot of them have complaints about having huge inflatables in front of their storefront. So we were just trying to negate some of that.
Okay.
So either way, right, but if it's not approved here, then we'll just move.
Yeah,
on
my
to
concern
what's-
would be, I know that some may not want an inflatable in front of the store, but they may not want the largest, parking lot that's in the central business district, eliminated too for an event that already has a very large footprint.
Yeah, and perhaps what we do
Yeah.
this year is keep it as normal, and then we just kind of, take data on how often or how frequent maybe that parking lot is used during our festival, and then we can utilize that for next year.
And your inflatables, you could maybe put those on Main Street in front of the parking lot, so it wouldn't be blocking any businesses, or across the street in front of the comfort station. There was some
Okay,
businesses
I see what you mean.
right there.
Shift it around, as board member Eaglin was talking about, shift it around so that it's not in front of a business, but it's also not blocking, the entire parking lot. I think that parking lot is just gonna be just absolutely full.
Okay.
And that's why you're gonna need more parking than less. Let's experiment with, the footprint that we
Yeah.
talked about today, and
Perfect.
it's also a good time to gather some data, and you'll see what patterns of behavior are when
Right.
people are here for your great event.
Perfect, okay. Sounds good.
So we have a motion, and a second? Did you second?
I made a motion.
Oh,
I second.
okay, you seconded, all right. Any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Joe, did we skip the Ruth Haven?
I was told it was
Canceled.
Oh,
canceled.
canceled, all right.
The next one is a street closing for Patriot Day. And this is resolution number 54-2021. Resolution of the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana regarding street closings for the City of Madison Patriot Day. Whereas there's been a request filed by Hannah Fagan on behalf of the city of Madison for a street closing in connection with Patriot Day to be held on Saturday, September 11th, 2021. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the city of Madison, Indiana, that Vaughn Drive between Poplar Street and West Street shall be closed from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, September 11th, 2021. Be it further resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the city of Madison, Indiana, that said street as closed shall be under the supervision and control of the city of Madison at the times noted above for the year 2021.
Hi, Hannah.
Hello. So as you're aware, Patriot Day is this Saturday. That is the event that Bill DeVries has been working to plan. There's going to be a 9/11 ceremony at 10:30 a.m. at Bicentennial Park, and then following the ceremony, starting at like 11:30 a.m., we're going to have kind of a public safety day, just like we did last year. We're going to have inflatables, games. The police are going to be serving lunch. That's all free to the community. That's just going to be down there at Bicentennial Park. So these roads are being closed for fire trucks, police vehicles, all the fun things for kids to see.
We did this last year there, didn't we?
Yes,
Everybody said that was a fantastic event.
it was.
Is the Paw Patrol gonna be there again? Cause I know the kids are
Probably.
really, happy about them.
I imagine yes. We will make sure they're there. How about that?
Just curious.
You made the appearance in on the helicopter last year.
No, that was Marshall from the Paw Patrol. I was just curious if he was gonna be here again this weekend, cause he was very popular with, the young attendees there. Plus they got to put out fires. What's cooler than that?
Yeah.
I make a motion, we approve resolution number 54-2021.
I'll second that motion.
Board, any additional discussion? Any comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Thank you, ma'am.
I'm just going to stand here because I have the next three on the agenda.
Next three, okay.
The next one is resolution number 55-2021, a resolution of the Board of Public Works and Safety of the city of Madison, Indiana, regarding street closings for the City of Madison Halloween Festival. Whereas there's been a request filed by Hannah Fagan on behalf of the City of Madison for street closings in connection with the City of Madison Halloween Festival to be held on Saturday, October 30th, 2021. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the following streets shall be closed from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, October 30th, 2021. Vaughn Drive from the west side of Poplar Street to the west side of West Street, and Poplar Street and Central Avenue from the gates south to Vaughn Drive. Be it further resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that said streets as closed shall be in the supervision and control of the City of Madison at the times noted above for the year 2021.
Okay.
All right. So this is for our Halloween festival, which we held last year on Main Street. We decided to move it down to Bicentennial Park this year because it will allow the kids to spread out a lot more, allow the booths to spread out, just provides us some grass for the petting zoo that we bring in. We know some of the Main Street businesses have concerns with festivals on Main Street. And then some of the Main Street businesses actually suggested that we do this festival every other year, but I don't think the kiddos in the community would be too happy with that. But we are making this festival larger. So we're bringing in, and this will be on one of our contracts, but we're bringing in like putt-putt, some bouncy houses, a train track, which is the reason for the road closure. So it's a trackless train, but they need not the grass, they need like a road to bring the kids around on. So that's the reason for this road closure. Otherwise, I wouldn't close anything. I'd just close Bicentennial.
I think that was a well-attended event last year, and the fact you're moving it to Bicentennial will accomplish several goals. Obviously, being able to spread out one of them and do more. And Hannah's done a great job of getting support from the community. Our businesses here in the community have been fantastic in helping fund a lot of the events that Hannah's been planning. So,
Is this a costume event?
Yes, it is. So the kids can come in costume. I encourage volunteers and those that set up booths down there to wear costume. I encourage the mayor to come in a costume.
I'm already wearing one.
I'm
What are you
bring
talking about?
Hudson. It'll be a good event. We have a lot more going on this year. We grew it working on our sponsorships now, but last year we had no problem with sponsorship. So I'm sure it'll be the same thing. Now I do want to point out it's not on Halloween this year. It's the Saturday before Halloween. It's just easier to do these things on Saturday than a Sunday.
Can I drive the train?
I'll ask.
Okay, ask. All right, I'll make a motion, we approve resolution number 55-2021.
I'll second Engineer Eaglin's motion.
Do you have a plan B in case of weather?
Plan B, we will have to cancel some of the things we have and move into the Brown gym. So last year we had perfect weather. I'm hoping for the same this year.
Any additional discussion? Any comments or questions? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. And one more. You want to talk about the Honey Hill Farm contract, Hannah?
Yes, so the Honey Hill Farm contract is the same petting zoo that we had last year. We'll have 20 farm animals. They load them all up, they bring their own staff, they set it up, kiddos can pet the animals. They don't get into the pens with the animals just as a safety precaution, but the gating is set up to where the kids can reach in and pet the animals, and they'll have staff like hold up the ducks and the chickens and all of that. But it's the same company we used last year, so they're familiar with Madison, they're familiar with our event, and they did a great job last year.
Yeah, what's the dollar amount on this, Hannah?
$958.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
They provide their own cleanup?
They do. And their cancellation policy is great. I think it's just 24 hours ahead of time, just let them know. If it's like weather, and if we're canceling entirely just because of any other reason, it's a 7-day advance notice with a full refund.
Kids love a mobile petting zoo. I'll move that we, well, is this other contract yours as well? Can we
Yeah.
talk about that, and we'll just do these in conjunction?
Yeah, so
BYB
this-
Event Services.
This other BYB Event Services, they've serviced Madison before with the Christmas festivities. At one point, Madison had an ice skating rink and all of that down at Bicentennial Park, and they serviced us. So they reached out to see how they might be able to service us again this year in different ways. And they're expensive, but I feel we will have the sponsorship entirely. So their contract is $6,850. They do have a policy where if we have to cancel, it's just $100 like transfer fee to pick a new date and use them. But they are bringing in for the Halloween festival, so they'll bring in the trackless train, a bounce house, an inflatable skee ball, another bounce house that is like an obstacle course, an airbrush tattoo artist, a balloon artist, a fire act, stilt walkers. They will also bring in a 9-hole mini golf down to the event. They'll provide their own staff, their own setup, their own cleanup. We just have to provide them with the space, and they'll be here for the whole duration of the event, which is from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then we've also like bargained with them, so they'll be coming in at Christmas time with some festivities following the Christmas parade this year. So that will be a contract we review at a later date.
I make a motion, we approve both the Honey Hill Farm contract and the BYB Event Services contract.
I'll second that motion.
Any additional discussion, board? Comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Scott Gross is here representing Nicole Shell for PACE midpoint approval and also 3 PACE extensions.
All right. So the first for the midpoint 227 West Main Street, project being completed by Lynn Pennington. Project is more than 50% complete and paperwork was filed accordingly. Work complete includes windows, roof structure, supports, restoration on the addition. Amount of disbursement is $12,500. For the second, 327 Mulberry Street, project being completed by Camden Mahoney. Project is complete, paperwork was filed accordingly. Work completed at tuck pointing, box gutters, window frames, and painting. Disbursement amount was $7,500.
Let's stop you right there. We have on our agenda the midpoint application for 227 West Main And I think you rolled into a different pay app.
I
which we don't-
apologize for that.
Which we don't have.
Okay.
So, what do you have? Well, you have is it a final pay application?
Yes, the 327 Mulberry Street is a final.
Okay. All right. And what was the dollar amount for that, Scott?
7,500.
75, okay. And midpoint for 227 West Main, for 12,570?
She had 12,500 on here.
12,500, okay. Okay,
I've got $12,670 on my agenda, so that 12,500 is correct.
12,500, okay. Let's do the two payment applications. I'll make a motion that we approve as presented the midpoint and final pay apps for 227 West Main and 327 Mulberry Street.
I'll second the mayor's motion.
Any additional discussion? These PACE awards and the work that's going on around town are producing fantastic results, so we really appreciate everybody who is investing their own money to improve these neighborhoods. Any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. And now we move on to the 3 extensions. Scott?
Okay, the first is 518 Jefferson Street, filed by Eric Dodge. Project held up due to contractor schedule. This is the second extension. The first extension was extended to 7/18/21. The new deadline, 9/30/2021. Project has already received half funds.
Okay.
Go on.
Yeah, go on.
The next is for 304 Broadway Street, as well as 306 Broadway Street, filed by Van Crafton. Project held up due to company sending the incorrect size shutters. Extended deadline to 10/15/2021, from the original deadline of 7/15/2021. Project has already received half funds.
Okay.
I'll make the motion, we approve the PACE extensions for 304, 306, and 518 Jefferson Street.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. All right. Or before we move into claims, I wanted to introduce Deputy Mayor McGee here, who wants to give us an update on Main Street Road Project. Mandy, I apologize for not catching you at the earlier part of the agenda.
No, that's okay.
Yep.
I wanted to update the board on where we are in the project, and then the last section, just make you aware of some of the issues that we're facing, and let you talk about that going forward, and just get your advice, I think, on how you want us to handle it. So where we are currently is in the second phase of this whole project, which is we've done the patching. Now we are doing crack sealing and mastic repair before we move into the liquid road section. So that's it's almost half done at this point, the crack sealing. We have tried to manage that so far with not having any road closure, allowing traffic at least one lane each direction as part of that process. I've invited Gary Newman from National Pavement Maintenance to join me here this evening, or this morning, if you wanna come up, Gary. Last week, when we were doing the crack sealing repair, we tried to manage traffic so that we could leave it open, and ran into several issues. So I just wanna make sure the board's aware of that. We can manage that going forward. Crack sealing will be done by the end of this week. From Jefferson Street all the way to the railroad bridge will be completed. We can manage with flaggers, with cones, and barricades through that process. Where we're a little bit concerned is the liquid asphalt part of the project. We've had issues with people driving behind the barricades. moving barricades, like stopping their vehicle, getting out, moving barricades and driving on, through a closed section where these folks are trying to do their work with the hot mix. We've had people driving through barricades, so they don't even get out of their vehicle, they just drive through the barricades. That's happened at least twice that I'm aware of. We've had issues of people walking into the work zone, driving into the work zone. Last week, I believe there were 2 instances where we had people stopped nose to nose because someone drove behind either the barricade or the cones, and it ended up coming into oncoming traffic, once almost hitting your equipment, I believe. So we've asked for assistance from MPD to have officers and vehicles there with their vehicle lights on, just to draw more attention to the fact that we have work going on, it's a work zone, and we need people to stay out of it. Like I said, we will be able to manage the crack seal and mastic process through the end of this week, and I can give you a clearer picture on that schedule. But as we move into the liquid road portion, that if people are walking on it before it dries, if people drive on it before it dries, and it's a 2 application process, it will affect the integrity of the product. So I'm gonna let Gary talk a little bit more about some of the challenges from that perspective, because we originally planned to follow that same footprint where we start at Jefferson and go to Broadway and do it to the center line with the Liquid Road project. What that means is you can't drive across it, so West Street, Mulberry, the city parking lot, all the alleys, West Street, you won't be able to drive across it for an entire day, 7 to 7. It also means from the sidewalk, you can't step into it. So we're gonna have to manage traffic, east, west, north, south, in that footprint. We're also gonna have to manage foot traffic, people stepping off the curb. And I'll let Gary talk about some of the challenges just in terms of if we go to the center, what that means for keeping traffic flowing. The other option would be to close a smaller section completely. So Jefferson to West Street, go curb to curb, get it done and get out of the way. It means that entire section of roadway is closed for an entire day. So we can talk through the challenges and benefits and challenges of doing it either way, but I just wanna make sure you have all the information of what has to be managed, if we do it however way we end up doing it. We don't wanna interrupt businesses, but they're going to honestly be interrupted one way or the other. So, Gary, what have I missed? What challenges are you gonna face, either way?
Not much, you've done a very good job. I guess the problem with going from curb to center line is I have to get onto the center line with, if I had a truck here, I could show you how it does, but the truck has the liquid in the tank, and it has a screen on the back of it, and the screen pushes the material onto the street. So when I open that screen up, then I can go 12 feet, 12 feet, 12 feet, or 10, 10, 10, however we have to do it. But when I get to the center line, I have to go over the center line so that I have a joint to match. If I go over the center line, the crown on the street, sometimes it'll take the material into that lane where we would be having, if we have 2-way traffic this way, it would take material into that lane. It will, if somebody drives on it, it's gonna track, it's gonna get on their car, or I'm gonna have to have a man or one of my guys jump out there real quick to pull the material back, and then we're in the lane. So we have that kind of a problem. The other issue is that the supplier can only supply us with X amount of gallons per day because of the material. They're actually having to go from Indianapolis to Minnesota to get raw materials to bring back, to put in, to manufacture. They can only get me 4,500 gallons a day. So that means I have to determine how much material, how much space I can take, how many square feet I can go. And if I so I have the two options. Let's just take this section here downtown. I could go from Jefferson to Broadway if I go curb to Centerline, but then that raises the issues we just talked about. And obviously with, I have to have it, it's a two-step process. We have the first coat, it dries, second coat, it dries. But we need to have it dry so that we don't, if people drive on it before it's dry, then it tracks, it leaves the tire marks, footprints, or whatever. So, and those are impossible to get out, so you don't have the material where it's supposed to be. If we block it off from curb to curb, from Broadway to west, then we're able to get in, we're able to put it down quickly, give us more time for it to dry. We can block off, we can cordon off the sidewalks on both sides easier than we can cordon off sidewalk, cross street, if we're able to do that. We can cordon off both sidewalks to let people know that they're not supposed to walk on it. And we can go from the west on Jefferson, we can go to the west of Jefferson, we can go west to West Street, take up those, then we're taking up 2 intersections as opposed to, what would that be, 4 if we went from plus the city parking lot, that would be closed off as well. So we're able to actually, it actually gives more access if we go curb to curb for 2 blocks, 3 blocks, whatever it works out to, whatever that is, 2 blocks west, Jefferson and west. We're actually able to give you more access to the businesses if they're able to walk a shorter distance as opposed to having to walk across the street, walk all the way around because they can't walk across the cross streets. Traffic also, I'm assuming, in the way it looks, the way we looked at it, if we're blocking off, we've had to block off a couple sections completely, and that makes our traffic flow a real problem if we have to go a long distance. If we're only going a shorter distance, then our traffic flow, our detours would be shorter. And we have the signboards, which we can move to where we need them. The signboards can have, you know, road closed ahead or detour ahead, and we can have the second page on the signboard give us the arrows that would show people that can go both ways, as opposed to just this, you know, 2 lanes. We can go half and half. So I think we can manage it better if we're able to take those shorter distances, even though it's the full closure. That's the way we've looked at it and the way we've had to change it. We need to really know, because your businesses need to know, your residents need to know, and quite frankly, we need to know which way we're going to go so we can move on. And my goal is to get out of the downtown area from Jefferson to Cragmont by not this Friday, next Friday. And that would give us plenty of time to be out of here before Chautauqua comes up, and then we can work on the rest of it as we go.
We also have 5 to 5 next weekend, which is the boat race. So there'll be a few thousand people in for that. I mean, there's no great answer here, unfortunately. You know, we're going to have 10 or 12,000 cars a day in either direction. That's going to have to be diverted out of that 2-block area, not to mention consumers and business owners and residents, as you mentioned.
Sounds like though with safety, traffic control, curb to curb, I would think is what you would prefer.
Yes.
And I think, you know, I've heard the nightmares and the people going through the barricades, and traffic control was hard to manage. I mean, I'm all for curb to curb, just for the safety part of it. Nothing else. I mean, we don't want somebody killed on Main Street during this process.
I just want to agree with what Mindy said. I personally witnessed last week people moving barricades and driving around barricades. People driving on Main Street when Main Street was completely blocked off. People getting out, moving the barricade, going east on Main Street. The barricade across the street from me on Oak Street was moved. The person drove through it, didn't get out to put the barricade back. So, I mean, it's appalling to me that people actually believe that they can get out. That barricade wasn't meant for me. It was meant for you. You know, I can get out of my vehicle and I can move that barricade and I can go wherever I want to. I mean, I just can't believe people's attitudes about wanting to get through barricades and cones to drive on a street that's closed. I mean, it's just, I saw it time after time last week.
It was, eye-opening to me. It got to the point, I mean, I got a phone call from Kenny Washer every single morning
Yeah.
with these kinds of things. It got to the point by the end of the week where I told Kenny, do what you need to do to protect the safety of the workers. Because it's not just that we can't get people to slow down because you're driving in a work zone. They wanted to proceed as normal, at the normal rate of speed and in their normal lane. We had an RV that drove through the cones because that's where their GIS was sending them.
Yeah.
It's like common sense didn't even, I don't know, I'm frustrated because I'm worried about the safety, but as we moved into this liquid road portion, I am concerned about the integrity of the product because I've seen that people disregard barricades and cones and police officers and flaggers. I'm not sure the best way to do this next portion of the project. It is a problem closing down commerce for 2 blocks at a time. I don't want to do that to business owners. If that's the way that we end up going, it would be on a Monday. There are some businesses closed on Monday anyway. I'm not saying it's the best alternative. We have a few days to talk to business owners in the affected area and see if that's acceptable to them. That's why I'm here. You are all the Board of Public Works and Safety, so I guess we're asking your advice on.
It's been almost 15 years since there's been any meaningful work done on Main Street. So there is going to be inconvenience along the way because of the repairs we've had to make, the crack and seals we've had to make, and now the top coat that we're doing to extend the useful life of it. If this was a mill and asphalt job, what would they be doing? Would they be closing down just the north 2 lanes at a time? I mean, how does this line up to what will be in a few years a complete mill and pave project? I know the because you wouldn't be able to lay down the asphalt and immediately drive on it. It's got to cure. Same thing with the liquid road, has to cure. But what would we be doing different now than what we would be doing if we were just milling the entire road and re-asphalting it? A question for Gary or you, if just try to get some similarities here, because one way or the other, there's going to be inconvenience, and we've always got the safety aspects of it we have to manage. And it's a really long stretch of road. It's not just a block. It's 4.5 miles of road that's been neglected for a very long period of time that we're trying to deal with.
I don't know in terms of being different from paving, other than the equipment's a little bit different. You're not gonna.
If I were gonna mill and pave, I would have the milling machine, obviously the trucks, and I would go from Jefferson as far as I could, get all the milling done, then I'd come back and pave. But you're talking, if we're gonna mill, we would mill from curb, we would start over, move this way. We're gonna be in the lanes because the equipment's gonna be bigger. You'd have the same problem if you're gonna have 2-lane traffic either way. The equipment's even bigger on mill and pave. So you're gonna have fewer places, or more traffic with a smaller lane to drive. You'd have to block off, there would be no parking on if I were milling east to west, there would be no parking anywhere if I were moving over, because you'd have to eliminate the parking for the cars to go back and forth. Because if I were gonna mill, I'd have to have that whole lane. I wouldn't have just a lane at a time, because the equipment is so big, you can't do that. So
Once a street was milled, you can drive on a milled street.
Correct.
But you can't drive on your liquid asphalt until it sets up.
You can drive on a milled street, you're right, you can drive on a milled street
yeah.
until it's paved, and you're paving, and it's the same thing, you're still moving traffic. Even in the lane, if you're paving, you're moving traffic over or around, and we just don't wanna go around, that's even worse, but yeah, so. it's a similar process, but the equipment's different, equipment's bigger, it's a little bit more hard to manage, so.
Yeah, the key here is communication with the business owners. Cause I'm presuming that Monday you do this, and then do you shift west on Tuesday?
Yes.
And then it'd be, you know, the block from west to Broadway probably, that section.
We would be Jefferson to west, west to Broadway, Broadway to Vine, Vine to Plum, Plum to Craigmont.
It's easier to manage the traffic around a 2-block area than it is all the cross streets in a 6 or 8-block area, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's not perfect.
I just feel like with the problem we had with traffic last week, to me, the safest would be to block off a 2-block area from curb to curb and do it that way. I mean, that's my opinion.
I agree.
So you go from Jefferson to West Street, curb to curb. Next day, from West Street to Broadway, curb to curb. And I think it'd just be it'd be easier to manage.
And we'll double barricade it this time.
Yeah.
I
I mean, then you wouldn't have your workers so strung out,
Right.
you know.
Right, exactly.
I mean, if they actually saw somebody that was getting ready to step onto it, you know, maybe they would be close enough to yell at them, you know.
Well, it's gonna be easier for the chief to have
That, plus we're
monitored
managing
2 blocks.
2 intersections versus.
Yeah.
2 intersections,
Yeah,
or 2
versus
sections
6.
would be, block section would be the ideal, I think. How have you done this in the past? I mean, obviously you do this all the time. I spoke with one of your workers, and I was out directing traffic, and they told me it was the first time they've ever had a police officer actually out directing traffic at one of your projects. So, I'm assuming that you guys always managed this in the past. I know we put a marked car down there with the lights on, to try to help out, so. You're the expert at this, what do you think?
We've been in other situations that we've been able to close off half the street, but we're in subdivisions, lower traffic areas. Nothing, you know, traffic isn't anything like this. We have blocked off streets before completely. Columbus, Indiana, we worked there. We've closed off streets there. Hancock County, we closed off streets where we worked up there in the Greenfield area. So we have blocked off streets that have made it easier with being able to route traffic from there. We've
So,
done that.
from start to finish, how long would a 2-block area need to be shut down?
We say 7 to 7, and that gives us a chance to get in, get set up, get cleaned up, put material down, give it time to dry. If we have because this may not happen, if we have lower humidity, higher temperature, sunshine, we've been able to get open by 5, sometimes even earlier, but at this point, I have to give myself till 7, because we need time for it to dry and cure.
Yeah, I think, what we're faced with a long stretch, trying to go from one end, from Jefferson down to Craigmont, it's inevitable that somebody's gonna slip in, and, you know, I'm in contact with Kenny Washer, I know Mindy is as well, and, you know, do the best we can, but there's somebody's gonna slip in through a barricade ultimately, so my thought would be that 2-block section would be, although it is a super inconvenient for those store owners in that area, it is just for one day, right? So it could be passed it quickly rather than dragging it out through the long periods.
And I know the mayor's very concerned about closing down the street in front of those businesses for a day. I'm happy to walk down and talk to those business owners, in the next, you know, today and tomorrow and Friday if need be, just to see, you know, talk to them about this and see if there's, you know, grave concern over it. They're gonna be interrupted one way or the other.
Maybe I think that's the key, is the communication and emphasizing that the sidewalks will remain open, you know? But this would actually be maybe the shortest disruption
Right.
than if we try to just do half at a time, but in longer stretches and more intersections
And once they open back up
actually.
at 7 that night, they're out of there. I mean, they're done and out of there completely, and it can be driven on. They'll come back and strike, but that's not a.
Put the cones back, I guess the
Yeah.
center cones will be back.
Yes, we'll have cones down the center line, until they get the striping in.
I think if we went the other way, you'd be shut down for 2 days, because you'd be shut down one day while they were going west, then they had to be shut down another day
south
when they
side,
went east. So I think, you know, the alternative is to shut it completely down for 1 day in front of the business.
We found out the other way doesn't work because of the way that they ignored the traffic control things that we had out there. So it was ignored, and I don't wanna get in that situation again.
It became a real safety issue, and I've watched, again this morning, and I watched last week, the workers running
Yeah.
to intersection to try and stop people from driving into work that had just been completed or into oncoming traffic.
Well, in that 2-block area, we could also put marked cars,
Yeah.
with lights on, although we do have one in Main Craigmont, I know that somebody drove around it.
And the police department is, you know, down 9 officers right now, so.
A little thin, but do whatever it takes.
It's kind of a team effort, everybody's short, on staff as well, so.
Okay, well, I'm hearing here is a consensus of, doing the 2-block, section at a time with good communication to the business owners and good coordination with the street department and the police department, and Gary's team with regard to the work that's being performed. And I apologize now to the community for the inconvenience this is gonna cause, but this is the quickest, safest thing, a way to approach it sounds like.
Okay, and I can talk to, business owners about deliveries that need to happen and the alternative side streets that maybe they can be used for that.
Side streets and alleys, or shifting the delivery schedule.
Yes.
I think they know what day their section's gonna be blocked off. They'll adapt to it and probably be very appreciative of that. And much safer for everybody involved.
Thank you, board. I will reach out to businesses today and tomorrow and have conversations.
We'll see how it works on Monday, and
Yeah.
then, perhaps Tuesday we'll bring a different plan. Thank you, Gary, thank you, Minnie.
Thank you.
I had one other thing to mention here that was in my binder before we get into claims, and is Christina Jewell here? I have a resolution with regard to street closing for a wedding on Saturday, September 18th.
Change from closure.
Board, it looks like all we need to do on this resolution is modify the time from 3 to 5 to 3 to 7.
I think it's from 5 to 7.
5 to 7.
Oh, 5 to 7, okay, 5 to 7. So we'll entertain a motion to amend, do you have that resolution number, clerk?
I don't have
I
it.
do not have that, no, not yet.
I guess let's just call it 56.
September 18th.
Resolution 56 will be the amended time for the Jewel wedding. And I'll make a motion we
Okay.
approve that resolution, and time change will be, from 3 to 5 will be canceled, and the new time will be 5 to 7 PM on that resolution.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Thank you. Let's move on to claims.
Mayor had an opportunity to review the claims. I'll make a motion that the claims be approved as submitted.
Second David's motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. I'll just mention too that we get a lot of requests for street closures, and I'm looking at a schedule. September and October are gonna be very busy. We'll do the best that we can to minimize inconvenience, because on some of these busy weekends, there's multiple events going on across the city. And we'll just have to manage the best we can. I think the traffic flow is still fine and still works, but we'll certainly be looking at the street closure schedule as new requests come in. But fall is a really busy festival season for the city of Madison. We're grateful for everybody that's bringing back their events in different parts, but we have the Shaw Festival this weekend, plus Music in the Park. Next weekend we have the Vintage 5 to 5, plus the Broadway reunion and a Hispanic festival at Eggleston School for the first time. The following weekend, Chautauqua, along with old courthouse days and different shows that go along with Chautauqua and the footprint that they have. And then moving into October, we were already, in addition to some things we approved today, golf cart, poker runs, weddings, and then in December, Christmas parade, but Halloween festivals, all kinds of things going on around. They're great for our quality of life, but they do, require us to be patient for those events and look for alternative ways of getting around town. And all of the things that I mentioned happen to be downtown. Although this weekend there's also within the Parks Department lots of activities. We've got a cornhole tournament at Johnson Lake, I believe. We've also got flag football, tackle football. There's a CABA baseball tournament at Rucker. In addition to the things we talked about with Patriot Day and a cotton mill event as well on the riverfront Friday, Saturday. So lots of things going on. Creates plenty of activities for the community to enjoy. And Madison's a very pedestrian-friendly community. So if you have a chance to just park your car and walk to one of those destinations, you'll find that it also just adds another element of enjoyment. But I want to say thank you to everybody that's volunteering and contributing to make those events happen. At council tonight, we have a full agenda. One of the primary things we're doing tonight, in addition to our budget ordinance for 2022, is just recognizing the contributions of our healthcare workers and what they're going through now and have been for the last 18 months or so in dealing with public health emergency across our community and our nation. So that's happening. Or do you have anything to add under the mayor's comment section, and then we'll finish up the agenda? No. We have a public comment section. Anybody here would like to address the Board of Public Works and Safety? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Susan Patterson. I live downtown Madison.
Hi, Susan.
I saw you last week running downtown Madison there.
All the time. I love it.
I walk, and so I see a lot of things going on. I have family that lives on Walnut Street and are directly impacted by the murder that took place there last week. My concern coming this morning is to talk about the place where it happened and the condition of the building. And I understand, Mr. Mayor, that you were out looking at the surroundings there.
Yes, ma'am.
At 705.
Yes.
I've looked at the unsafe building codes and the unsafe building codes for state statutes, and I am struggling to understand why this hasn't been cited as an unsafe building before now. My understanding is that building has been in that condition for 15 years. I asked on Walnut Street. Like I said, I have family over there, so I'm over there quite a bit. I have a grandson that keeps me busy, and I'm struggling to understand why nothing has been done with that property in 15 years. I don't know if you got it close enough to see that it's basically a pool with a piece of plywood on one side. At the point in time I looked at it last summer, we caught 2 young men over there with hypodermic needles in their back pocket. We have drunks over there. You know, it is a public safety issue. It's also public health when you've got stagnant water sitting in a untreated, we have mosquitoes, we have West Nile, we have Zika, we have any number of mosquito-borne illnesses. So it's a public health issue, public safety issue as well. And I understand about property rights, but I lived in the city of Indianapolis for 27 years. And I was in a neighborhood that was much as Walnut Street is down here now, transitional. It's trying to turn over a new leaf. And you have people that want that new leaf. And so I'm hopeful that we'll see some movement from the city, because one thing with being retired is I don't have a whole lot to do. So I will be back to talk to you more about it. I'd like to see some movement on it though rather quickly, because it's not a situation I wanna see repeated, and it was a crime of opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, the property is not maintained. And something needs to happen with it. I also looked at the last State Board of Accounts report that's been issued for the city of Madison and saw that there was $100,000 in the unsafe building. So I'm assuming that that could be used for demolition of something like that.
Well, let me first thank you for coming here and also say you're exactly right. That was a horrific crime that occurred there, and properties like that are a cancer to a neighborhood. I was actually going to be speaking about this a whole new blight elimination initiative at a later date, but I'll share the insight with you now, and that is there's blight all across the city, and you can define blight and nuisance property in a variety of ways, and our ordinance actually has a very long description of what would constitute a nuisance and create blight, and that particular property and others like it invite and attract problems in the entire neighborhood. What we've been trying to do, and what we've done actually successfully over the last 18 months or so when I came into office, was work on the incentive side of things with our PACE program, putting more money into incentivizing property owners to either invest in their properties, sell their properties, and attract matching capital so that a neighborhood can transition out of being a blighted area. In Walnut Street, which is a street I grew up on, just literally a block south of there, is an area that is a targeted revitalization area for us, and we're seeing lots of property owners take pride in their properties and invest the money along with our PACE program to fix the property up. But a property like that is unmaintained, that is neglected over a really long period of time without the proper enforcement from the city, creates a downward spiral for the community. And that one, as you can see, that when I grew up on Walnut Street, that whole corridor, that whole area there was very vibrant. There were businesses down there. People took pride in their homes. There's a lot of people now doing that, taking pride in their homes and fixing up. But in some instances, incentives don't work. They're not motivating elements. And when you have a property owner that is allowed to board up and abandon and uninhabit and unoccupy and unrepair, then this is what happens. It invites people doing drugs and other criminal activity there. And then here we ended up with, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, Miss Patterson, where someone was murdered there. On that day when I went down there after that murder, I was there with the superintendent of our street department. I was there with a neighbor, Mrs. Beeman.
Yes.
I was there with the superintendent of our chief of police, our building inspector, our planning office, and our deputy mayor. And we toured that property, and the conversation we had was, this is the beta case of what happens when we neglect the enforcement aspects of our ordinances. And what we have to do is figure out a way to be more proactive on the enforcement side of things. And I'll tell you, in the incentive side of things, not that it's easy, but it's done in a much more positive light, where we're adding money, we're eliminating a barrier, of an investment barrier. The enforcement side is really, particularly when you get to the state statute, the unsafe building laws that you've mentioned, our process of having to go through and condemn a property, the rights of a property owner to fight that condemnation. It is more drawn out and more expensive, but it has to be with the same sense of urgency that we have with attracting investment. You're exactly right, and I apologize for the condition that it's in and that it's been allowed to be in for such a period of time, but that's what we're working on now, is how do we make people understand, and part of it's going to start with a a registry of properties that we're already compiling across the community that are frequent violators of our nuisance ordinances, property owners who are either in town or out of town who are neglecting and not maintaining their properties. And some of them actually are inhabited. This one was uninhabited, but there are uninhabited properties that also are nuisances. And our job as city officials is to enforce our ordinances for the public health and safety of the entire community and for those who might be in an unfortunate situation, have to live there or around there. So you're exactly right, and there is more we can do. There's more that we are going to do, and it's going to be a new phase of our blight elimination process. Really started with how do we put the carrot out there? How do we incentivize people? And we eliminated some barriers. There were some barriers from a policy perspective because some of our programs weren't available to investors. They were only available to property owners. We eliminated that barrier. We put a targeted revitalization area of 3 revitalization areas, Walnut Street included, and it started attracting a lot of momentum. Property values are increasing. It has been slowed down with flood recovery and response, but you're exactly right, and what we have to have is a concerted effort with our building department, our city planning, our legal staff, in order to go after the property owners who seriously refuse to do anything about the properties they've abandoned.
I'm well aware of all
Yeah.
the issues with
Yeah.
the length of time it takes.
Yeah.
In Indianapolis, we have an environmental court that deals with those kind of things. And I went with neighbors from my neighborhood. I lived in the shadow of the Colts Stadium down there. And we had one property owner that it looks much like the property at 524 Walnut, where the walls are concave. And I said you could take a football team out there and have them all just lean, you know, from the right leg to the left leg, and they probably could reach out their arms and push it over. Took us 2 years to get rid of it. It's been a nice empty lot in the neighborhood that I lived in Indianapolis for the last 10 years, and it's a much safer area and a much nicer area because that blight was removed.
It pushes out the negative element that you're talking about.
Yes.
And I had this conversation with the property owner down there. They were like, well, what should we do? And I said, either invest your property or sell it so someone else can. But what we can't do is nothing. And you're exactly right. I'm glad that you're speaking out on it. And it is something that I feel very passionate about, that we have to do more about, because there's some great investment going on around our community. But there's still pockets of blight, and where we have the ability, and our building inspector's here, and where we have the ability to be more proactive and more assertive, we need to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, given the fact that that thing has been basically a swimming pool.
Yeah.
For the last 15 years, at least. Nobody could tell me exactly when it burned and when it became uninhabited. So one thing that should happen is when you have a massive fire, there's got to be somebody to keep a catalog of those properties so that the building inspector can go and ensure that those properties are taken care of in a timely manner. You know, it may take a year or two.
Right.
For those things to get done, but it doesn't need to take 15
Generally
years.
speaking, Ms. Patterson, when we have a plan and we hold people accountable to the plan, you get results. If you have neither or one or the other, we're only focused on the incentive side of things and not the enforcement, then again, we develop pockets, and people respect what we inspect, and when we are complacent about enforcement, then it just emboldens and empowers people to do nothing. And we have a lot of issues across the community. Some of these have been brewing and stewing for a really long period of time. I mean, you might have been here earlier. We were talking about drainage issues been going on for 45 years. We can't cure them all overnight, but if we're conscientious about it and we put our money where our mouth is, we can create results that don't take another 15 years.
No. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Anything else come before the board today?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second that motion.
Thanks everybody for being here. Our next meeting will be Monday, September the 20th. Thank you.